welcome to Broker Banner Denver, where we are breaking down barriers to home ownership. I am your host, Kim Davis, the real estate expert.
And I'm Patrick Williams, the mortgage guy. We're here to inform and educate you about the home financing and buying process.
Yes, and on today's episode, we are going to do the last part of our series where we are breaking down our thoughts on the east side of the Denver metro area.
Yeah, we've covered all four areas of the metro.
Yes.
And then we're also going to talk a little bit about rent backs or post occupancy agreements and talk about the PCE numbers that are going to come out later
PCE?
tomorrow. Yes, which is the Fed's favorite gauge on inflation.
Okay.
Which is its personal consumption expenditures.
Okay, so we'll talk about that. But before we get to that, how's your week been?
It's good.
Good.
I feel like spring is finally here.
You keep saying that.
I know. I think it's like second or third fall spring. I'm sure we'll get some more snow, but it's been nice.
March. We still have I guess that's spring rain showers and
Yeah,
April.
I mean, I remember it snowing on Mother's Day before, so. But it's melting fast. That's the difference.
Well, I remember my daughter's graduation, high school graduation was
Yeah.
beginning of May?
Yeah.
Middle of May?
Mid-May.
And there was a snowstorm
Getting
because,
snowed out.
like I've said before, my mom owns, and my niece and nephew own a Vietnamese restaurant called
Yeah.
Zomo in Inglewood.
Yeah,
And
great, by the way.
you know,
Delicious egg
Thank
rolls.
you.
Uh-huh.
Well, I can't really take credit for it, but my daughter's favorite food, Ava's favorite food, is pho, which is that's how you pronounce PHO. It's
not pho?
It's not pho. It's
Oh, are
pho.
you sure?
Yeah, which makes some of the signs funny if you.
My favorite was the king of pho,
Right.
which in reverse order.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I like the way you kept that PG.
Or faux show.
Faux
I've seen
show.
that.
Yeah.
I've seen that one.
Pho real.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I do love pho.
We're just shouting out all the pho restaurants.
Hey,
and then if you go
'cause
down
I do love
Federal,
pho.
you have pho 555, pho.
Yeah, so
you know,
somebody was telling me, I think it was probably you, because you do have some expertise in the area.
Yeah.
A lot of them, like, there's always numbers associated
Yes.
with the restaurant, and that's like
Sometimes it's just the address.
just the address. Or
Right.
you said maybe when they immigrated to America.
Yep, that could have been too. Yeah, there
Yeah.
was Pho 79 that used to be
Yeah.
really popular in Federal. I don't think they're there anymore. I just drove by. It's a different name. But anyway, so my daughter.
Okay, back to the story.
Yeah, back to the story. That's her favorite food. And I remember thinking, oh, that is not going to be good because.
It's
you know,
warm.
it's warm.
It's nice.
It's hot.
Yeah.
And then it was snowing, and then all
was
of her friends
perfect.
came over, and they were like, "This is the best food
Yeah.
ever," because they were freezing.
I remember
And
you had pho. Yeah.
And they were like all eating,
Well, did they do the
normal.
graduation outside at Red Rock still, or did you guys get moved to like
No, we
McNichols?
got
Or not
moved
McNichols.
to, Denver Coliseum.
Denver Coliseum.
Yeah.
It's been a little while since we've
And
had
then my
McNichols.
friend who it was an expat for a long time, right? Because she went and lived out of the country. She came back and had forgotten that, during the national anthem, you're supposed to be quiet. She was talking
What?
to me.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, shh. She goes, oh, sorry, I forgot. Because she hadn't really heard the national anthem for
Since she'd been in
7, 8,
7, 8
10
years.
something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
South
it was-
America?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was in South America.
Yeah.
So.
You know what's awesome? Like going to a sporting event and when everybody stands up and the national anthem is played
Yes.
and everybody just like, I don't know, there's something,
You
it doesn't.
just feel the oneness,
Yeah,
right?
it's
For like that
fantastic.
moment
Yeah.
in time.
It's
usually.
great. I
It
think
is
you
great.
kind of can forget about
Right.
that. And then at least the last game that I went to, they bring in like a veteran who's honored in the middle of
Yes,
the game.
I love that.
And the crowd just stands up and claps
Yeah.
for.
I think all Nuggets and Avs games.
both of them do that?
Speaking of,
Yeah.
we are in Avs and Nuggets. I think, well, not quite, but Avs and Nuggets playoffs coming soon. So
We're
that's
getting close.
exciting.
Both of them have been playing really, really well.
Yeah.
I think we've lost the two most recent games, but
That's okay.
yeah. I mean, since the All-Star break, I mean, they're both sitting kind of first
Yeah.
seed, second seed. I think we've got a shot. I won't knock on wood, but it's possible we could have two first seeds and two teams
Oh,
in the
don't
finals.
jinx it.
Well, that's why I knocked on wood. Yeah. No, I'm excited. I love playoff hockey and basketball. It's
Yeah.
always fun,
Me
especially
too.
the last couple
Well,
years
I mean,
around here.
Let's not joke. I love playoff football too, but that just
What's
hasn't
that like? I
happened
don't
in a while.
remember
I don't
what
know.
playoff football is like. It's been so long.
I'm just saying, JJ McCarthy, if you were watching this, you should come to Denver.
Sounds like
I
he
hear
likes
that
him. We'll
I
see.
hear that he will probably go before. our
Yeah,
pick
they're
comes
projecting
up.
him to go to the Pats, I think.
Oh, it's such a bummer. My husband's a big Michigan fan
Yeah, Big Blue.
because he was born in Michigan.
Right.
So I know there are a lot of people who don't like Michigan, but yes,
Well,
the big house.
yeah, it is. I had a friend. His dad grew up in Ann Arbor, and he back in like the 50s and 60s, they used to let people park in their yard because there was not
Yes.
enough parking there. So
Yes.
like the town grows by like 4 times.
It is.
So the kids, they would just let people park on their lawn and collect some money.
You are
and
not allowed to bring a stadium seat into that stadium
Because it's too big?
Yeah, they're too big. Like you sit sideways.
That sounds like fun.
No.
No, aluminum bleachers and I'm sure it'd be a pretty. I mean, 110,000
No.
people I think fit in that stadium, something like
A
that.
lot.
It's a big stadium.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're really known for college football, right? I mean, because they're the Detroit Lions, which did great as far as football.
Well,
for
they were
Michigan,
they
but they don't.
they
well,
just
the
made the
Red
playoffs,
Wings.
so the Red Wings have been good. I mean, but Michigan football is pretty
Michigan
big.
football is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have no clue what real college football.
I lived
is
in
out
I
here
lived in Florida
Colorado.
for a little while, and it got to
Okay,
experience some
yeah.
SEC stuff
SEC,
and the FSU Florida
Go
rivalry.
Tim Tebow. Just kidding. I love him.
But yeah, no, we really, I mean, we did win a national championship, like 30 some years ago. I don't know if you
See
knew
you?
that. Yeah.
Cordell Stewart.
Cordell Stewart. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Pretty impressed by my
That
sports
was
knowledge.
that was pretty impressive. Yeah. Hey, I saw a story. I don't know if you saw this. It might be one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen.
Okay, tell me.
So, 7-Eleven is getting into the sparkling water game, right? There's so many sparkling waters
Right.
out there,
Love
and
sparkling
I think
water.
there's like 4 flavors, and it's like a strawberry, a apple. I can't remember what the third one is, but it's the fourth one.
Grape, maybe.
Something like that,
Yeah.
just kind of normal. The fourth one, though, when I saw this, I couldn't believe it.
What is it?
Hot dog, like Big Bite flavored sparkling water.
That's what it's called, Big Bite?
Yeah, like if you at 7-Eleven, you go in for their hot dog, 'cause I think it's called the Big Bite or something like. I haven't eaten a gas station hot dog in very many years.
And it's hot dog water? That's
That's yeah, and I just don't know if it's like dirty dog water,
it-
or how do they flavor that?
Is it going to be sweet? No, it can't be sweet. It's
I
got to be
have-
salty, right? Ew.
I don't know what it's going to be, but I just thought I would bring that up because I saw it and I just couldn't believe my eyes that somebody would actually.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe
you
they're just
should
playing a
get-
prank on us. I don't know.
Maybe we should get some and try it
On air.
on air.
All
and
right.
see
I'll
what
stop
it-
at 7-Eleven and
Okay.
see if I can find some.
Do you know that in Asian cultures, 7-Eleven is like really good? Like in, I think, Japanese.
Oh,
or
it's like a
China.
nice store?
Like it's a really nice store where you
Yeah.
can buy like.
Isn't
really
that interesting?
good
Like
food.
some of the,
Yeah.
like KFC in Asian, I think it's in Japan. They somehow convinced the Japanese that on Christmas that all Americans eat KFC.
Wow,
and
that's
so
great
like
marketing.
it is, and literally like more than half of the households in Japan order like a big KFC meal for
Of,
Christmas.
like a bucket of fried
yeah,
chicken?
like and some coleslaw and mashed potatoes and biscuits and
Might
things
have to
like
go
that.
there for Christmas. Just kidding.
Well, maybe we should talk about some the
Some
east
real
side.
estate stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Well-
so we've been doing a series breaking down the metro area,
Correct.
and we've done the south, the west. Last week was the north, and here we are. The
And
last.
Well, the first one was Denver.
Oh, we did
Central.
Denver proper, that's
Denver
right.
proper
Yep.
in the middle.
Yep,
you
we
know,
talked
went to
about the
Swansea.
most expensive
so
zip codes.
we are finishing our fifth, I guess, on the east side.
That's
And
right.
So some really. Well, mostly I would tell you the reason why a lot of people live on the east side is because your price per square foot on housing, right? You can get new housing, newer housing, right?
Newer.
Kind of like the north where they have room to expand and grow. And so a lot of our builders have gone to the east side. So out by Denver International Airport,
Yeah.
DIA.
Yeah.
They go out there because, there's tons of buildings.
There's lots
out
of
there.
land. Yeah, there's
Lots of
space to
land.
grow out there.
Lots of space to grow. And, so if you have lived in Denver or you're thinking about Denver, like we have said before, that the south and west are a little bit older homes and there's not as much growing out there because there's not as much land.
We're just kind of locked in. We're up
Correct.
against the
We're
mountains.
yes.
We're up against the
Correct.
south end of town.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so then if you go to the north or east, but as we are concentrating on the east this week, the newer houses, newer homes,
Yeah.
price per square foot is usually a little bit less than it is out west and south. And so you get newer, bigger.
Yeah. So there's this spot that shout out to Dion's Pizza because they help me out. I like to take I do some lunches for teachers and things like that to say thank you. And so we'll bring pizza in for some of the teachers. And Dion's always hooks me up. It's out near like Smoky Hill on 470 area. That it's called the Southlands area. That's a really nice area.
Yeah, Southlands is great. So if you know, like some shopping, Southlands area is great. My brother manages a fireworks stand that's out that way, usually on the around the 4th of July. And
that's a good time to sell fireworks.
And
yeah.
Even though mostly illegal here in
I
Denver
think you can
area.
get sparklers and snakes.
Well,
my mind automatically goes to Joe Dirt. I'm sorry. So wait a minute. You're telling me.
We could talk about the other things.
The whistling Dixies and the. So you're telling me.
I don't know if I remember
with or without fiddlesticks.
I don't.
You've never seen that? Oh my gosh!
It's been a long time.
We might have to put that clip
90s. Up. Yeah.
Oh, it's a great clip. I digress
you have
though.
To pay for that if.
We probably would.
What was I saying?
So southeast or the Southlands. We were talking about Southlands.
But then also, really quick to finish this thought.
Okay.
Fireworks, anything that pops or
goes into the sky,
goes in the air, are illegal.
Yes.
So you can do a lot of fountains, a lot of snakes.
The boring stuff.
Yeah.
The lame stuff is all legal.
That's why everyone here goes to Wyoming, but we are not.
I would never suggest doing that and bringing illegal fireworks back over the border.
Exactly.
No.
But the east side. So another good reason to live on the east side is if you commute to DIA, it's great proximity to the airport.
Absolutely.
Right? You can usually get there pretty quick. Of course, the east goes all the way down to Parker, but still that.
Yeah, we kind of touched on Parker with the south end of town. It is east of I-25, so I do think,
I would say it's east, but you say south. So
I mean, it's southeast. It's southeast.
Yeah,
and southeast Aurora now, like Parker Road, just goes all the way through and butts up against each other. So, I think the more northern side of Parker is definitely more east than south.
But I mean, so great proximity to DIA. So if you are someone who travels to the airport a lot, I mean, it's a great place. And the views. I think the views from the east part of Denver is beautiful because you see the whole
the further you
mountains,
get away from the mountains, the bigger they actually look, because when you're right up against them, you can't really see them in their glory.
Right, you don't get to see the purple mountains majesty.
That's right.
But when you're in the east, you can see the purple mountains majesty.
Yes, yeah. So nice views out there. Is that no? That's not.
God Bless America.
That's right. It did. You know what? It ran through my head because of the whole Francis Scott Key Bridge thing, and that's who wrote the Star Spangled Banner, and the bridge was named after him. But then I was like, no, that's not it. So I held back.
So you held back, and then I went and said it.
Yeah, which is fine. I enjoy watching you put your foot in your mouth. That's all right.
Thanks for fixing it.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, I know that if I remember correctly, maybe last year we were working with a client. And they really were very particular about where they wanted their payment, and you had a hard time maybe finding something, so you kind of kept driving east.
Correct. So as we've said before, drive till you qualify, they wanted something very specific. They wanted house, they wanted yard because they had dogs. And
so no condo, no townhouse.
And correct, no condo, no townhouse. And as we started to look, the things that we were looking at, which they could find, were they were bigger, more fixer-uppers, and that's not what they were.
They were looking something more for move-in ready.
Yes, move-in ready.
Yeah.
And so we actually pushed all the way out east to Bennett. And if you don't know where Bennett is, it's 14 miles east of DIA. So there is a little bit of field space before, but it's just a matter of time.
It'll be gobbled up.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I thought that it was in Kansas. No, I'm teasing.
It was pretty close, but Bennett, I mean, brand new builds. I think
I couldn't even help them because the builder was able to give them such a great low interest rate. So I think it was perfect for the solution for them. I think at the time it was
$450,000 or so, and they had a 4.5% interest rate. And when interest rates are 6%.
Yeah, we're
more.
still like 6
Yeah.
3/4 probably right now.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes a big difference in
Sure
payment.
does.
So that's, not that we want to take you out of a job, but builders do have some incentives with
They can
They
do,
can.
yeah.
have some incentives with mortgages, and because they buy out. You
I've been, I have worked
at
at builders before. They usually buy like a big bundle of loans and are able to maybe offer, because they're also making money on the sale of the home. So
Correct.
they're willing to maybe take a loss on the mortgage in
Right.
order to sell the home. And
Right.
so they are able to offer
So
better
when
rates.
you say a bundle, it's like they'll say, "Hey, we'll do $10 million of loan at this."
And if they don't fulfill all of them, they still have to
They still
buy
have to
them.
buy them.
Yeah,
Oh,
so there's some risk associated with it.
Okay.
But I do think, the new build inventory is our biggest issue, right? Like,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
so the more the builders that we can incentivize and remove the red tape and get
Right.
some inventory into the pipeline,
Correct.
It's only going to benefit everyone.
Well, and I would tell you that I've actually had clients who don't use the builder's mortgage broker because they sometimes hide fees in their closing costs. And I'm not saying all builders do this, but we've seen that before so just if you are buying with a builder, you should still have a mortgage broker or banker look at the loan to make sure that, the fees aren't $15,000 when really they're $5,000 or $6,000,
Yeah,
$7,000
the
in
APR
fees.
is the best way to look at that. Is the overall cost of the loan. But I'm always glad to look over something, even if they don't use me. Like, hey, let me take a look at the documentation they provided
Right.
you, and just offer value regardless, right?
So if you are buying a new home and you just want someone to look at,
yeah,
the
same thing.
loan?
No, with the realtors, a lot of people will go to a community.
Correct.
And talk to the salesperson, and you still need to be represented if
Correct.
you are buying a new build.
Yes.
Somebody needs to look out for your interests,
Yes,
right?
because that salesperson works for the builder.
Right.
And so they are looking out for the builder's best interest, even though they seem very nice, and they are nice people. I'm not
They
saying
are
they're
very
nice
nice.
people, but they are not looking out for the best interest of you as a buyer. So
They work for the builder.
that's true. So I think, what else about the East Side?
There's a lot going on out there. I mean, there's the new Gaylord Hotel, which is
Yes,
awesome.
love the Gaylord Hotel.
They do some really cool Christmas time stuff,
do.
and they've got a great
I
pool.
think sometimes they have some circ shows out there.
Something
or
like that.
They have like bumper cars.
It's
and like
if you haven't been out there to
Yes.
see that, I mean, just for a little staycation,
Right.
go
Yes.
out and stay a couple nights
Yes.
out at the Gaylord, and it's like a whole different world out there. Central Park, formerly
Yes.
known as Stapleton neighborhood,
Yes.
which is the
Wonderful.
old airport.
It
And
is.
so they kind of came back. So it's crazy because it's so centrally located. I mean,
Right.
it is on the east side,
Right.
but I think it's still considered Denver.
It is. It
Right?
is. Yep. Still considered Denver.
Yeah, so there's a lot
Denver
of new,
County.
right. There's a lot of new that has gone in there.
A lot of new, but the old airport, where they
The
at
tower.
is still there, so you can kind of see.
It's pretty
where,
cool.
Yeah, that is.
There's some cool hangars
Yeah.
too.
And actually, they have some good schools in that area
Mm.
in Stapleton, and
Mm-hmm.
so. They have like some talented and gifted and like math and so
Like
there's
STEM stuff.
STEM,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And
That's a great neighborhood.
right. And speaking of these, I mean, you have Cherry Creek Reservoir is over there.
Yeah.
And so that is still part of, if we're talking about schooling, that is
Cherry
part of
Creek, yeah. So on the
Schools.
southeast
Yes.
side of Aurora, you do fall into the Cherry Creek
Cherry
School
Creek
District,
District,
which
yeah,
is a great benefit.
A great district
Yeah.
that a lot of people like to be in, and as far as high school sports, usually those Cherry Creek schools are amazing.
Well, Cherry Creek High School is the biggest.
Oh, my
it's the
goodness.
biggest high school in
Yes.
the metro area, and I think they usually do pretty well, whether
Right.
it's football, baseball, basketball.
I know Dave Logan won the 5A state football championship for multiple years in a row.
Yeah,
And
they've got a great program
They do.
going.
They have a great program. They have a great volleyball program. They've won state a lot. So,
Yep.
anyways, but yeah, great. So a good school. District
Yeah, and Cherry
in
Creek Reservoir is a
yeah.
great little spot.
Yes.
You can go out on the boat or bike or walk around.
Right. And Aurora Reservoir also. Aurora Reservoir does not allow
No motor vehicles.
but you can go paddleboarding out
Yep.
there.
Yep, I've been paddleboarding out
yeah,
there.
But Cherry Creek Reservoir, there's biking trails and walkability
Yeah,
around there.
when I worked for Richmond, we were building a community right that butt up against Aurora Reservoir. which they built some really nice houses.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
So let's see. Anything else about I know something. I don't know if we touched on it, but the hospitals are newer out there. The Children's Hospital, which my daughter has been to many times.
Yep.
She has a heart condition that we found when she was a year and a half old, and she's
just going to get checkups.
Wonderful, so she only goes for checkups now.
Yeah,
so not
but the
anything.
VA is also right
VA's
there,
over there.
and that whole area, that East
Hospital.
Colfax right up against 225.
Correct.
They're revitalizing that whole area.
They built all new restaurants, all new.
The RTD goes through there.
Yes.
Their light rail.
So the little bit of public transportation that we do have goes out there. I know RTD goes out to Golden also, which
the light rail they've done a pretty good job expanding.
They're trying. We are trying to be better about public transportation. I'm sure, they have to do something here in the next 10, 20 years, I think, as far as better public transportation.
To get to, something about the I-70 corridor has to be done, but I think for the Denver Metro, they've done a pretty good job over the last 20 years.
Us as Denverites that need to start using public transportation.
Well, and I think that's part of it. We're a lot like California where everything's so kind of spread out.
Or New York or Chicago, they do a really great job of public
I was in Boston this fall, and we didn't even rent a car. We just used, they call it the T there. Yeah.
Right. And then what's it called? There's Subway, and then when do they call it in Chicago?
I don't know. I'm not sure. We might be going out there.
The Metro?
Maybe the Metro. Yeah, that sounds right. We might be going out there this summer. My daughter's applied for an enrichment program at the University of Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
so that would be
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
Go Gabby.
I know, right?
Or Bree.
I still call her Gabby.
I call her Gabby too.
Yeah. So East Side. I mean, I think the biggest point is there are some fantastic homes on the East Side. You can find some newer homes.
Yes.
And you might be able to find some things that are fit your price point that you may not be able to find on the South and the West side of town.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I would agree.
Yeah.
DIA.
Yep. Proximity. Yep.
And great views.
And great views.
I think the views are the best from the East, personally.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that wraps up our
series. Hopefully you learned a little bit about Denver.
This was a very high-level overview.
It
Just
was.
to try to give, maybe if you're from Denver, you might have found that bored. We were kind of trying to help people maybe who are outside of the Denver area decide what part of town they should start looking.
Live in. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah.
So, and did you say that you had an update for us about merches?
Yeah, so we have some information coming out. Rates have actually been coming down slightly this week. So I would say the average rate, we're right about 6 3/4 right now. Okay. So we're inching down. I don't think we're going to see anything drastic. We're still hopeful for a Fed cut in June. However, we have a report coming out tomorrow, which is the CPE report. Right. And that's the Fed's favorite gauge for inflation, and the reason it's their favorite is because it excludes the more volatile rent, housing costs, and gas.
Yes.
So it takes those out, and that gives them a better idea of what inflation looks like. They're expecting that we actually see a slight uptick from last month, about 1/10 of a percentage point. Okay. But it's really showing that it's flat. I think everybody was hoping that it would be falling faster based on kind of what we saw this fall. So
usually you give us that report on Fridays, but we are shooting this week on a Thursday.
We are. And I thought I was hoping I would have that by the time we recorded, but we did have to kind of switch up. So the good thing is, though, is that there's not going to be any reaction tomorrow to those numbers. It's kind of a strange day. They're releasing a big report, but the markets are closed for Good Friday.
Oh.
So
happy Easter, everyone.
Yeah,
this
happy
will come
Easter.
Out after Easter.
Yeah, so market reaction, we're not really going to see anything until Monday anyways.
Okay.
So we can talk about how the market reacted next week.
Okay.
Sounds
great.
Yeah, so we did see a couple other things. Fannie and Freddie have revised their forecasts.
As in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for
That's correct.
Those people who...
So those are the two largest conventional...
federal, right? They're federal run.
They're backed by the federal government,
okay.
correct? Yeah.
Yes.
So Fannie Mae is actually a private company.
Oh,
but,
okay. I did not know that.
And, so they forecast where they think interest rates are going to be. Initially, everybody was forecasting we're going to see, rates back down into the 5s by the end of the year.
Yes.
Well, as we've come through this first quarter, we're almost done. inflation seems to be a little stickier. And so now they're kind of adjusting those forecasts.
What do you mean by stickier?
Meaning it's not coming down as quickly as we thought it would. Yeah. So now they're adjusting and they're saying we're probably going to be in the low 6s, probably not going to see 5% by
all this year.
No, it's going to be 2025 is what they're saying before we see a 5. Yeah. So, I mean,
that's a bummer, but
it is a little bit of a bummer, but I think it just kind of goes to show you that we may be in a new normal here.
Right.
And that for those people who are like, I'm waiting, I'm not going to do anything until I see a 5% interest rate again, you very well be waiting a really long time. And you're missing out on equity. You're missing out on paying down your own mortgage. You're throwing your rent away every month. So I would still recommend getting in the market.
And speaking of equity, didn't you tell me that you saw something that Barbara Cochran from Shark Tank that she had
so
an Instagram post, right?
Yeah, I think it was an article, maybe an interview that she
Okay.
did, and she just talked about how as rates start coming down, values are going to pop up.
Right.
And we've been saying
Which
that.
we have been saying for a while,
Exactly.
since the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah,
anyway. A whole 3 months we've been saying that.
3 months. Yeah, I think we have. This is probably our 12th podcast or so, I think, or something like that,
I'm not
maybe
sure.
13.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just does kind of support our
Yes.
where we've been coming from is like get into the market,
Right.
date the rate.
Right. That the industry has been saying that, a lot of buyers have been waiting on the sidelines, just waiting for this 5.99 or this 5, any interest in the 5. And so what you are telling us is, as of right now, the forecast that Freddie and Fannie are saying is that they are not predicting any 5s for
Not for
the
2024.
year.
Yeah. So
Well, let's hope that, like the weather, that changes.
It is a forecast.
Is the forecast changes.
So
and
the one thing I will say about that is that the Fed did pivot a little bit on their stance, and he was really careful about jobs. I think maybe they're a little worried about the job market. If we start seeing unemployment come up, we may see some cuts quicker than anticipated. Okay. So that's something to keep our eyes on.
It's kind of funny, right? How we do that. Everyone has jobs. The job, unemployment rate is 3%. So they're like, oh nope, interest rates stay high. But as soon as unemployment rate goes up, they're like, oh, let's lower the interest rates. And it just, I don't understand the economics of mortgage rates, and I don't need to understand it. I just need to know, like, what can I help my clients with, and to keep them informed. So, yeah. Maybe
and that's why you have me, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
so
is true.
I'm encouraged. I think inflation is coming down. It's just going to be a slower trajectory than we initially anticipated. Right. But
if you're waiting for 5.99, it may not happen. Just jump into the market.
Jump into the market and start building equity today.
Yes.
Date the rate, marry the house. Got to say it.
I've never heard that. Never heard that.
We can always refinance you a year or two down the road if we ever get back into the 5s, which we will, but it might just take a little longer than anticipated.
Just may take another 9 months.
Yeah.
So speaking of, there's actually no good segue, but
do you want to talk about what a rent back is, or also known as a
Post Occupancy Agreement?
Okay.
Which we say PCOS. So what that is usually you negotiate, right? A PCOS is a Post Closing Occupancy Agreement. Why do we say S? Maybe we don't say S. PCOA.
I think what you were thinking of is POS, and that's something totally different.
That's a computer.
Or something else. Like my old car that doesn't want to start. No.
Moving on. And so what a post-closing occupancy agreement is that when you negotiate, sometimes the seller may need you being the buyer.
Okay.
Right? The seller is hoping that they can sell their house, and that you, as a buyer, will agree to letting them rent back that house, their house, but that will become your house for like a certain amount of time. Now, post-closing occupancy agreements can only go out 60 days, and usually that's because it's a mortgage
That's
standard.
because of us. Yeah.
Yes.
As you sign the loan documentation and you're buying a home as your primary residence, you sign a paper that says you'll occupy the property within 60 days of closing.
Right. That's correct. Because if you don't, then you need different kind of insurance. It's a different kind of loan. It's an investment,
More of an investment
versus
property, yeah.
principal residence, and you need to have more money down. And so there's a lot of things. So yes, the most you can do is 60 days. But a lot of people sometimes, if you don't get possession the same day that you close, then it is required in the state of Colorado that you have a post-closing occupancy agreement, even if it's just that you're going to keep the house for 24 hours.
So if you don't get the keys after you
closing.
sign, there needs to be an agreement between you and the seller.
Correct.
Okay.
And so what a post-closing occupancy agreement is just kind of a mini lease. It talks about the things that can happen, like what happens if the house is destroyed, what happens if the house catches on fire. It also talks about, hey, are you going to charge rent for the 1 day or the 30 days or the 60 days that you have it? Is there a deposit? And so just know that if it used to be the norm way back 10 years ago, that if you bought a house, usually you gave the seller 3 days to get out. Well, nowadays, because of the post occupancy, it's the same day of, or you have to negotiate the
Post occupancy
agreement.
So what do you think, like if the seller is saying, hey, we would need this. We need some extra time to get out of the house. Is that a way? Can you leverage that as part of your offer?
You can negotiate that. Actually, I have a deal right now where we are really hoping to get an offer. We've been on the market for a little while, and they were asking for a lesser price than what our asking price was. And so we just negotiated that, hey, we'll give you a little bit lesser price if you let us stay in the house for an additional 30 days and not charge us rent, which we got. So it's definitely a bargaining tool. Yeah. And my sellers are happy. They don't have to do a double move. They get to move on into their next house. They were fine taking a little bit less because of convenience.
Convenience is a big part. And it does seem to be harder anymore, like that buy and sell back to back where you are doing both like contingencies. We've talked about that. So this gives the seller an opportunity to hopefully go find their new home.
So just a really quick, like a contingency is when you have to sell your house in order to buy a new house. And so what happens, which is our case exactly, you are helping them with the mortgage, is that they do not qualify to buy another house without selling their house first. So in order for them not to do a double move, they're going to close on this house. And then the people who are in the house that they're going to buy, because they can't buy a house until their house is closed, so sometimes it's a domino effect, which I think we talked about the contingency. And so that's when the post occupancy agreement comes into play. And we see them all the time this day and age. I mean, especially the past, wow, I can't talk.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, the past few years with sellers kind of having the ball in their court, we've been doing post-closing occupancy agreements for a while.
They become pretty
standard.
Yeah.
And really, what isn't standard is, are you going to charge rent? Are you not? And I think that's each individual negotiation is different. And so you're just going to have to trust your realtor or ask them for advice on how you should proceed. And of course, as always, buyers and sellers have the power in all the transactions. We are just here to help and guide you and educate.
Yeah. Well, that was really helpful. I mean, I did one and really didn't understand. It's like on both ends. I was renting back my sold home, and then when I bought, I rented back to them. And it's like a domino effect.
It is. And so, but it's nice to know that you have that, especially, that, and I think for expectations for buyers that here in the Denver metro area, it definitely still happens. But I would say it's probably 50-50, honestly. Sometimes you just get it right away.
Yeah.
If it's vacant, definitely, you're always going to get your house the same day as closing. But most of the time, if someone lives there and they have not found a place to live, you're going to do a post-occupancy.
Yeah, I mean, I had a closing last week, and I don't think they're going to occupy until the end of April, which is kind of strange because you close, but then you just, and then you don't, but nothing really
Right.
happens.
And so that's a good thing to know, especially if you are renting. You probably want to buy something before that lease runs out, because there's a good chance that you may have a 30 to 60 day rent back situation.
So don't wait until your lease is up.
Correct.
Like maybe when your lease is 90
days out.
Yeah.
Or maybe even if you don't want to feel like you're being pressured into buying a house, you start 6 months out.
6 months. Yeah. Because you definitely don't, I mean, I haven't rented in a long time, but that month-to-month scenario is typically pretty expensive.
It is.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you don't want to have to extend past that lease agreement. Well, that was helpful, Kim. Thank you.
Yes. Well, I think that wraps it up for another podcast show.
Yeah, I think we covered everything. Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you guys next week. If you found this podcast helpful or informative, please give us a like, share us. We're available on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify.
See you guys later.